Here's the one thing nobody argues about. On a night in 1941, up in the Blackwater Holler, a man named Amos Justice died in his own bed, and his three sons, who hadn't set foot in the same room together in years, sat up that night to wake him, same as families done back then. Body laid out in the front room, hands folded over his chest. That much is gospel. Everybody agrees on that. But somewhere in that night, Amos Justice's hand moved. Everybody agrees on that too. What they can't agree on, what they never could agree on, not once, not in over 80 years, is what that hand was doing and why it moved the way it moved. Them three brothers hadn't spoke friendly to each other in years for that wake, on account of a piece of bottomland their daddy give to the youngest and not the other two. And I've heard three different ways of what happened over that body that night, from three different lines of the same family, and they can't all be right. Can't none of 'em even agree on the shape of what they seen, and it was the same hand, the same room, the same night. I'm going to give you all three versions tonight, the way each side still tells it, and by the end, young'un, you're going to have to decide same as I never could, which brother's remembering it true, and which two are remembering what they needed to. If you sat with me before, you know me. If you're new to the porch, it's Papa Elias, and you're welcome here. If you'll pull up a chair regular, Saturday and Sunday, that's when I light the lamp, I'd be glad of the company. And a like helps more folks find their way up here too. Now, let's go on up to that Blackwater Holler. Here's what's not in question. On a night in 1941, Amos Justice died in his own bed, up at the home place in the Blackwater Holler, after a long spell of poor health. His three sons, Thaddeus, Wallace, and Coy Justice, come together that night to sit up with the body, same as families done in them days. Laid him out in the front room on the good bed, hands folded over his chest, candles lit at the head and foot. That much everybody agrees on. After that, no two people in that family tell it the same. Not then, not now, over 80 years later, sitting with the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of them three brothers. I've heard this one from all three lines of that family over the years, and I want to be plain with you before I start. I ain't got a favorite in this. Some of that Justice kin I know personal on both sides of the old argument. I'm going to give you what each side still swears happened, and I'll tell you now, I don't know which one's right. I've turned it over my whole life, and I still don't know. Let me start with the oldest boy. Thaddeus Justice was the first one I ever heard tell it, and he told it like a man who'd made his peace with what he believed, even if his brothers never had. Thaddeus was the oldest, 40-some years old by the time his daddy passed, and by all accounts, a serious man. Not given to fancy talk or fooling, worked his own place hard, went to church regular, and never had much patience for anybody who exaggerated. His grandchildren still tell it the way he told them. I sat closest to the bed that night on account of I was the oldest, and it was my place to. Wallace and Coy sat further back by the hearth. Wasn't but the three of us and my daddy's body in that room. Candlelight, the only light we had. Somewhere past midnight, I seen his hand move. Wasn't no twitch. It come up off his chest, slow, deliberate, like a man moving with a purpose, and it come to rest right over his own face. Covered his eyes and his mouth both, like he couldn't stand to be looked at or couldn't stand to look at us. I knew right then what it meant. He'd give Coy that bottomland behind my back and Wallace's both. And he knew, at the very end, what that done to this family. That hand covering his face, that was shame. Man was ashamed, even laying dead, of what he'd done to his own sons. I believed that my whole life, and I'll believe it to my grave. That's how Thaddeus told it, to the day he died. Plain, certain. You'd believe it too, till you hear what Wallace had to say. Now you'd think two brothers, same night, same room, would tell it close. They didn't. Wallace Justice was the middle boy, quieter than Thaddeus. A man folks said carried more feeling than he let show. His side of the family swears by his account, same as Thaddeus's kin swears by his. Thaddeus will tell you, it was shame. I was there too, and I don't believe that for 1 second. What I seen wasn't a man covering up. It was a man reaching. That hand didn't move slow and easy like Thaddeus says. It come up quick, almost like it startled itself. Fingers spread, and it didn't lay flat over his face. It grabbed at it, grabbed at his own mouth, like a man trying to hold words in or push 'em back out. I've thought on it 1,000 times since, and the only thing that ever made sense to me was that Daddy had something left to say, something he never got the chance to, and his body was trying to finish it even after the rest of him had quit. Thaddeus wants to make it about the land, on account of that's the only thing Thaddeus ever thinks about. But I was set closer to Daddy's face than Thaddeus was that night, and I'm telling you, that wasn't a man ashamed. That was a man with unfinished business. So now we got two stories, and they can't both be true. But I knew both these people some years apart, and neither one ever lied to me a day in their life. Two honest people. Same night, same room, same body. And one says the hand moved slow and deliberate to cover shame. The other says it moved quick and grabbing, reaching for words that never got said. Now how do you square that? I'll tell you how I don't square it. I don't say one of them lied. I knew Thaddeus Justice most of his later life, and I knew Wallace some too. And I never caught either one in a lie about anything, let alone something this heavy. Both of them carried that memory the same way, certain, unshakable, right up till they died. That's the part that sets wrong with me. It ain't two people confused about a blurry moment 40 years back. It's two people who watched the same hand the same night, close enough to touch it, and come away with two different truths that a body just can't reconcile. A hand don't move slow and quick. It don't lay flat and grab. One of them things happened, not both. And just when you think two's enough to muddy the water, there's a third. And Coy Justice don't agree with either one of his brothers. Most ever family up these hills has got one story they don't tell at supper. The kind that gets brought up different by different kin, depending on who's telling it and what they was owed. Your people got one like that? Something that split a family and everybody remembers it their own way, convenient to theirselves? I'd like to hear it if you don't mind sharing. Write it down below. I read everyone. Anyhow, back to the Justice family, 'cause Coy's version is coming, and it don't sound like his brothers at all. Coy was the youngest, barely 20 when his daddy passed, and the one who ended up with that bottomland, the piece that split the family in the first place. He lived a long life after, and near the end of it, he'd tell his own grandchildren a version that don't sound nothing like his brothers. I loved my brothers, even after all that come between us over the land, and I'll tell you what I told them more than once when they'd bring up that hand. Wasn't nothing but the body settling, I'd seen it before, animals. And one time, a neighbor man laid out for burial. The muscles draw up after death, tighten on their own, hours later sometimes. Don't mean nothing, don't take no purpose to it, no shame, no unfinished word. It's just what a body does when the life's gone out of it. Thaddeus wanted it to be about guilt, 'cause Thaddeus needed Daddy to feel guilty. Wallace wanted it to be about unfinished business, 'cause Wallace never did get to say his own piece to Daddy 'fore he died, and it ate at him. I understand both of them, I do, but I was set right there too, and I didn't see a purpose in that hand. I saw grief doing what grief does, making two grown men see something that wasn't there. So there it is. 3 people, 3 stories. Not one of them lines up with another. Let me lay 'em side by side, and you'll see what I mean. Now let me set 'em side by side the way I've turned it over in my own head for years. Thaddeus says the hand moved slow, deliberate, and settled flat over the face. Shame. That explains why a guilty man's body might do such a thing. But it don't explain why Wallace, close enough to touch it, seen something different entirely. Wallace says it moved fast, grabbing, fingers spread, unfinished business. That accounts for the urgency in it, the sense that something was left undone. But it don't explain why Coy, standing just as close, didn't see any purpose in it at all. And Coy says there wasn't no purpose, wasn't no meaning, just a body doing what dead bodies do. That's the plainest explanation, and Lord knows plain explanations are usually right. But it don't account for why 2 of his own brothers, men who never lied to a soul, both swear they saw something with intention behind it, even if they can't agree what that intention was. I want to be fair to all 3 of them, 'cause I think I understand what each version give 'em. Thaddeus needed somebody to answer for the land. Wallace needed to believe his daddy hadn't left this world with things unsaid between 'em. And Coy needed, more than anybody, for that whole night to mean nothing at all, on account of he's the one who kept the land, and he's the one who'd carry the weight if it did mean something. 3 men, 3 needs, 3 truths, each one serving the man who told it. But here's the thing. For all they don't agree on, there's one thing all 3 of 'em said, every single time, word for word close, as makes no difference. And that's the thing that keeps me up. Let me tell it slow. It's a small thing, but it's the thing. All 3 of 'em, and they agreed on nothing else. Not the speed, not the shape, not the meaning. All 3 said the hand moved toward Coy. Thaddeus said it, setting facing the bed on the right side, watching that hand cross leftward, toward where Coy sat by the hearth. Wallace said it, from his spot closer to the middle, and Coy said it too, though he'd be the last man on this earth to want it said. Even in his own telling, explaining it away as nothing but muscle and gravity, he still said the hand come to rest, angled toward where he was setting. Every one of 'em, every single telling down through over 80 years of these families not speaking to each other at family reunions, not one of 'em ever changed that detail. And there's no way in this world they rehearsed it. Some of them, children of theirs, didn't meet each other till I introduced 'em, doing this very research. 3 brothers, 3 different hows, 3 different whys, and one direction, agreed on by every single one, without fail, without exception. That hand went toward Coy. Whatever else it was doing that. If you held a gun on me and made me pick, I'd tell you I think Coy come closest. A body does draw up after death, that part's true, Doctors'll tell you the same. Rigor's a real thing, and grief does play tricks on a man's eyes, especially two young men who just watched their daddy go. But I wouldn't swear to it, 'cause Coy's plain explainin' don't account for the direction any better than his brother's versions do. If it's just muscle and gravity, why toward him? Why not toward the door or the window or straight up at the ceiling? Rigor don't know who owns what land. Rigor don't hold a grudge. Truth is, I think all three of them brothers got a piece of it. Thaddeus felt genuine guilt living that room, whether it come from his daddy or just from his own self. Wallace felt genuine unfinished business, same reason. And Coy felt, genuine as the other two, that it didn't have to mean a thing. Maybe all three of them things were true at once. Maybe that's what grief does in a room like that. It don't let a body see just one truth. It shows you the one you can carry. Nobody got the whole of it. And the three of them took their pieces to the grave one by one across near 40 years without ever once agreeing. The land stayed split the way Amos left it, and the family stayed split the same way. Thaddeus and Wallace never did make it up, not all the way. Not even after their own children grew up not knowing their cousins on Coy's side. Family reunions, when they had 'em at all, come to be two separate gatherings at two separate houses. Same holler, same blood, different Sundays. Thaddeus passed first, still certain about the shame. Wallace went a handful of years after, still certain about the unfinished word. And Coy outlived 'em both by a long stretch, still certain, right up to the end, that it hadn't meant a thing at all. Three men who watched the same hand move, and every one of 'em carried a different truth about it into the ground. So you got the three stories, same as I got 'em, passed down through kin who still ain't all on speaking terms over 80 years on. You decide. I never could. I told you, I don't know how this one ends. And I don't. But you got the same pieces I got. Three brothers, three stories, and one direction that hand went that not a single one of 'em ever changed. So down below, tell me, was there something behind that hand that night? Something that knew who to reach for? Or was it just grief? Doing what grief does to three men who needed different things from the same moment. I want to see how it splits. Come back this weekend. I got one about a revival that ran 7 nights straight, and on the 7th, something happened that nobody in that congregation has ever spoke of since. Not plain, not once. That's the whole of the Blackwater Holler account, near as I can gather it. 3 brothers, 3 truths, and over 80 years of not speaking at family reunions on account of a hand that moved one night in 1941. I've sat with descendants from all 3 lines of that family over the years, telling me their version like it was handed to 'em in trust, like letting go of it would mean letting go of something that mattered. And maybe it does mean that. Maybe that's the whole point of a story like this one, not what happened, but what a family needs to keep on believing happened, generation after generation, just to make sense of what tore 'em apart. Lord rest Thaddeus and Wallace and Coy Justice, wherever they've landed. I hope, wherever it is, they've finally got it sorted between 'em. That's the one. That's all I got for you tonight.